Good afternoon, everybody. It's a Dog H. Weber with you with another edition of Weber This Week. Here on a Monday, the 27th of March. Wow, we're into spring already. Well, a guide is joining me today, special guest Greg Lazzaro. If anybody had ambitions to become a politician, you may want to read Greg's book, and I'm sure he's going to write one. He does a great job, in my opinion, amidst a lot of controversy, and we're going to talk about some issues that he's involved in, and we're going to talk about a lot of things that he's involved in. And first off, Greg, thanks for carving out 30 minutes. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome, sir.
Greg, let's talk about, for the folks that may not know you, certainly that would be kind of remote if they're not listening or checking us out during the Finger Lakes region. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, when you came to the area, and where you went to school, basically. Give us a rundown.
Okay. Well, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. By the time I was a teenager, I didn't like big cities. My parents used to take me for vacations, upstate New York, Vermont, small villages, small towns, and I fell in love with those kinds of areas. So I went to a small town college in New York, Oneonta State. I graduated in 1977, and I went home to Brooklyn. I found a job, but that led to a job in Binghamton, New York, and I thought Binghamton was a little too big. I did meet my wife, who worked for the same agency that I did there, and we got married in 1980, and I worked there for 5 years after that. I worked in Binghamton from 77 to 85. And her parents lived in Hibiscus Harbor, New York. They bought a house. They retired up there, and we wanted to get close to them, so we moved up to Seneca Falls. We looked in the area, and we found Seneca Falls. We had 2 boys when we moved into Seneca Falls in 1987, and we had a third one. They all went through high school here, and they all graduated Minders Academy. So, and at the time, I wanted to become, I knew that I would become active in my community by coaching, by joining various steering committees on the school, finally being elected to the school board 3 times, appointed once, and then I couldn't run for political office, but I was on the Republican committee, off and on chairperson from 1990 to year 2015, and then I decided to run for office. I couldn't run for office when I worked for the state because of the Hatch Act, which prohibited me from running for an elective office. I ran after I retired. I was lucky enough to win. Kudos goes to, and thank you, goes to the people of Seneca Falls. Sure. I ran again. I won again. So total, I've had 14 years in elective office in my 30 years in Seneca Falls, and I feel honored that the people in Seneca Falls have shown me that kind of respect in electing me, and I hope I can do a good job for them.
Do you still love it amidst all the controversy that you have been involved in and the board has been involved in? And I know I've checked out several of your meetings via TV. I go to bed too early to be there live. But do you ever go home saying to yourself, why'd I ever get into this kind of thing? Does that ever come to mind?
No, I enjoy being a political figure. Once you run for office, you become a political figure. I enjoy serving the people in the town of Seneca Falls on the county board of supervisors. Sure. I do have a concern with the bigger picture. It seems like people, not only in this town but all over the country, have become very polarized. One side doesn't talk to the other side.
Right.
It's not that you disagree; it's how you solve those differences. And I think you start off with compromise, and then you work for a consensus. You have to have compromise before you can have a consensus. But people nowadays don't seem to talk to each other. They're very polarized, and it's not necessarily a difference of opinion, but how you work to a resolution. And I feel the answer lies someplace in the middle. It doesn't lie at one end or the other end of the spectrum.
Let's talk about a couple of things that took place as I led up to having you come in, and I appreciate you taking time to come in. Greg Lazzaro is my special guest for the full half hour today on Weber This Week. Hope you're enjoying the show. But Greg, I noticed in some clippings for the Seneca County Board of Supervisors that obviously your meetings, they print what's happening there as far as what developed at your meetings. And I couldn't help but notice, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, when Bob Shipley got got elected as the chair of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors, when he was announcing committee assignments, I noticed on the paperwork that he indicated that you used to be running the personnel committee, and all of a sudden they moved to some other direction. And I read between the lines that it had to do with some sheriff's contract of you and your committee not having read it or not being prepared for it. Could you explain exactly to our viewers? Because I think it's important to know, because I saw it and I thought all of a sudden, geez, you're in charge of something, and all of a sudden you're out of it. I just didn't understand the reason. Could you explain what took place there?
Well, the sheriff's contract, we've been without a contract for, I believe it's been 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
About 3 years ago, we as a board made a proposal to the sheriff's department, the correction officers unit, that they declined.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 years later, they come back, and the correction officers unit had an election. New leadership was elected, and the same contract was proposed to them. So once the contract was proposed, they wanted the board to have a special committee meeting and approve it that night.
Mm-hmm.
I felt since there was 3 years that we needed to read it first,
Sure.
and understand it and ask questions. I didn't think that it would go down to defeat.
Right.
I thought it would be approved, but I think it was necessary for the board members to read it. I had read it. I was somewhat familiar with it, but over a period of 3 years with all the other issues, I felt we needed to be better prepared to ask the questions. I looked at it. I was ready to approve it, but I felt other board members didn't have the appropriate time to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed through that they didn't have the appropriate time to read it, because when I asked a couple of questions about it, no board member was able to answer my questions.
Right.
Again, would I have been able to answer the questions? Probably not without looking at the contract specifically, but I feel that people needed more time to look at it after a 3-year hiatus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the better road to take, is
Sure.
to be prepared and know what you're voting on.
Now, appreciate the comments, because I was curious of why all of a sudden they went to a different committee chair regarding that. As far as, your town board, our town board, the town of Seneca Falls board, I'm sure you haven't seen more, maybe in your career, more polarizing event than SMI. Let's be honest about this. It has put, I hate to use this term, but I will, cowboys versus the Indians. We got people that are pro-SMI, think they're a good neighbor. Yes, there's some odor issues. No one's doubting that. On the other hand, you have some people that support SMI because of what they do for the area, what they give the town of Seneca Falls every year, several millions of dollars, or whatever it is, 2.8, 3 million, I can't remember the number. But on the other hand, you have people saying they should have been shut down before now, they should be out of here. Then, of course, we all brought it to a head relative to last November, December time frame, when a vote was taken to pass what is now considered Local Law 3 that's currently on the books. Your opinions of how that transpired? Basically, it was sort of a surprise that it took place at the end of the terms of the two ladies, and Mary Sartori and Annette Lutz, who got defeated in the election. I was surprised, maybe you were surprised as well, that it got to a vote as it did, and it ended up, you on your side, you and the other member, Vic, voted to not approve it, and then Mary, Annette, and Dave DeLiz voted to favor it, which made it law. What was your opinion of how you thought it was handled? Basically, just a general overview, and did it surprise you that that took place?
Well, it was a 4-1 vote because Vic did.
Yes, 4-1.
Vic did change his mind.
Yes.
And he had his reasons, too.
Mm-hmm.
However, I believe, to fast forward,
sure,
instead of going over a history of
right.
SMI, to fast forward, we had an election.
Right.
Mary and Annette were appointed.
Right.
I was all for their appointments. I thought it was good to change the demographics of the board, have a woman, have a younger person. I always like to see young people involved in politics. or elective office, as I did when I first moved to the community. And I felt that, and they had different types of views. Sure. I felt that I felt that people on one side are hesitant to talk about any other conclusion to a problem except their own point of view.
Right.
And I feel people need to listen and compromise at times. I feel that I compromised. My views were a little strident at first. And then when SMI came to us with some new ownership that they had, new people put in place, they said they wanted to sit down and negotiate and look at the host agreement and then see if there's any areas they could change and improve their relationship by sitting down and talking and discussing these issues. Also last year we had 3 forums, and the 3 forums brought out people from both sides of the issue, seeing that this was a business in the community that we needed to respect, a business in the community that has given us a lot. They, in terms of money, they give Seneca Falls, the municipality, $3 million a year. Over that time since 2007, when the last host agreement was signed, we have built our programs in recreation. We have built a police department, and we've made a lot of improvements to infrastructure. Infrastructure still needs to be improved.
Sure.
This summer, in fact, we have a lot of roads being blacktopped over by Jimmy Peterson and his work crew at Highway Department. Water and sewer infrastructure needs to be improved. And we need to improve that because we are looking forward to expanded economic development. Expanded economic development, we have an SFDC, Seneca Falls Development Corporation, that this year I can say we're close to signing an agreement and selling the old town hall building to Longley and Jones. The lawyers have the papers now, and all that needs to be inked, and they're going to make high-end apartments there. And the old police station, George Tilton and 5-Star Medical is looking to move into that building, and we'll have a business come into the building. They've also paired up with the high school to have some internships there, so they're already looking toward the future. So we have some new economic development. We also have the SFDC and the farmers market. The farmers market this year is going to be bigger and better, and so we're looking toward growth in the community by bringing businesses in. We're going to have a new Seneca Falls Development Corporation website, which might be on the web pages right now today at 3 o'clock. It's
great.
And so I think with everything, we need to be business friendly, and by targeting a one business, we're not shown as business friendly. This business is regulated very strictly and monitored by the high agencies of environmental in New York State and the federal government, the EPA and the federal government, the Department of Environmental Conservation in New York State, and the Health Department. And their monitoring reports are great. They always come back good. They share them with us. And they move on. Their health and safety record is great. They have had some accidents, but when you work in a field like that, you'd expect that to happen. Well, you never expect it to happen, but it's bound to happen sometime. But overall, everything is working well, and they work. Their monitoring organizations keep a close eye on them and tabs on them. And I think those are government institutions. So when you talk about those issues, and one side says you can't trust the government,
right?
And yet, when Seneca Falls passes a local law 3, which is an imposition of a law on a business, they say, "Oh, now you can't trust the government." Well, you can't have it both ways. you have to somewhat trust the government, but you can't be imposing new rules and regulations after a business has been very friendly to the town in many ways over the years. They give to non-for-profits.
Sure.
Our rec center, we built that with monies from them. Our library, we built for monies from them. They've been a real partner in building up this community. And I think if you're going to change the way you do business with them, or you're going to change the way for the future, you have to sit down and speak with them and negotiate that. And you just don't impose a law that's going to close and stop their business.
I know you don't want to go back, but I think I need a comment from you regarding the forums you had on the SMI issues. It seemed to be pretty hot, heated. There were signs galore outside, speakers supporting SMI got very little fanfare after they left the microphone. People that opposed SMI, and I have no problem with the respect. I respect anyone who opposes the SMI. That's the American right. What bothered me and bothered a lot of people in the area was when you would get up and speak against SMI, that they would get a standing ovation. Cheers would be coming through your auditorium or your community center or, wherever you had your meeting. That seemed a little, Cowboys versus Indians. We had a position. If you're not speaking for SMI, then you get booed off the mic. If you're supporting SMI, you get a standing room, a big cheer. To me, and you don't have to comment if you don't want to, it seemed like that, with those kinds of meetings, split the town, in my view, and I've been around here long enough to make that point, and it had to be unsettling for you and the board. It had to be.
Well, not to be condescending,
sure,
but you go back to rules of decorum.
Right.
And, people say, everything I ever learned, I learned in kindergarten.
Right.
Well, some of those rules are listen some, learn some. And, do not name call.
Sure.
And if you listen some, you're going to learn some.
Mm-hmm.
Speak less, listen more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that when you get a group
mm-hmm.
of a number of people who are very emotional, and emotions are great to have when you feel one way or the other.
Right.
But when you become zealous about those emotions that you have, then that goes wrong because you always have to listen to the other side. And I think that's where some of the anti-SMI people go.
Yep.
It's listening. People tend not to listen some and learn some. And
Okay.
I'd like to see more of that.
Greg Lazzaro is my special guest. It's hard to believe we're at 18 minutes after the hour. We come back. We're going to talk to Greg about a couple of issues, talk about the beautiful new town hall. I haven't been in yet, but Greg's going to give us an idea when we all can get a chance to see it. So check it out. We'll come back in a minute. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Visit Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora, a fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor on Bridge Street in Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her team will find the right spirit for you every time. When you stop in, tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams and Wadhams Enterprises, your local employer of choice. Proud supporter of Weber This Week and local athletics. Fill out an application at wadhams.com. The Gould Hotel welcomes you to come out and enjoy the revitalization of this historic downtown Seneca Falls landmark. Every Wednesday is Ladies' Night with special price drinks and half-priced appetizers. Learn more at thegouldhotel.com. The Omen Theater on William Street in Lyons. See what's playing this week at omentheater.com. Located off New York State Thruway Exit 41, the McGee Diner has earned their reputation as a popular family restaurant, serving country fresh home-cooked meals daily. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and check out their menu at mcgeediner.com. Del Lago Resort and Casino will feature a luxurious 205-room hotel, several restaurants ranging from casual to fine dining, and a 2,500 capacity entertainment venue called The Vine. The casino will have 2,000 slot machines, 75 table games, and 10 poker tables. Visit www.dellagoresort.com. Seneca Metals is an award-winning company that has earned a reputation of going above and beyond to protect the environment and support their community. As an EPA inspector once said, their operation is head and shoulders above the rest. The Seneca Falls Country Club, awesome 18-hole layout, open to the public, and a 12-month payment plan for members. Check out SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. And the Newark Pilots of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, a minor league team with a major league ballpark. Season ticket packages available at NewarkPilots.com. And the Wilson Press in Seneca Falls. My good pal Rich Rickey and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Visit them online at wpress.com. Rich Rickey and Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Hey, welcome back. It's a Dog H. Weber with my special guest and friend Greg Lazzaro joining us this afternoon on the show. We'll get back to Greg in a minute. Just a couple of notes. As you all probably know, I work out at Del Lago in the marketing group, handling some buses. They come in. I have some fun with the seniors, and we have a lot of laughs. I enjoy it. It's a few hours a day. Just keeps me moving. I want to send out a shout-out to the casino hosts that really help us out in that area. The Vice President of Player Development, a young man named Matt Ingold. Thanks, Matt, along with Ashley Delafave, Maria Maloney. They're just dynamite people. Shannon Avon, who used to be the OTB lady, she's out there. She always helps us when we need her. Jeff Marcheski, Jeremy Stevenson, Joe Marone, and Tiffany Collingsworth. They do a great job. I just want to give them a shout-out on my show today saying thank you for all your help. By the way, we'll switch to Greg in a minute, but Final Four basketball, if you're alive and you love basketball, and I'm sure Greg does too. Final Four, nothing like it, coming up Saturday, baby. 6:05, game number 1. We'll have South Carolina versus Gonzaga, 6:05, obviously on CBS. And the nightcap will be North Carolina versus Oregon. By the way, Oregon hadn't been to a Final Four since 1939. If you're keeping track, that's 6 years before the dog was born, 1945. Also, keep in mind, South Carolina has never made the Final Four. Gonzaga has never made the Final Four. And North Carolina, their 20th trip to the Final Four. So, based on that, you think that North Carolina might be the favorite, but it's great basketball. Nothing quite like it. Check out the Final Four on CBS starting at 6 o'clock this coming Saturday. Hey, Greg, by the way, a group of folks got together and developed, they call themselves the Seneca Falls Environmental Action Committee, led by Doug Avery, who's a friend of mine. I got to ask you, when they put themselves and called themselves a committee, you made it very clear that you did not endorse this and you did not appoint these folks. Is that fair to say? Or regarding, I know we're getting things that are hung up on our doors and we're getting full-page ads with a committee making their stance known. Give us a view of, you didn't support having this committee, correct? We had enough committees.
No, I think we have enough committees. We have we have a waste management advisory board.
Right.
That's board sanctioned.
Sure.
I did have a advisory group,
right,
that was comprised of a lot of people on this environmental group.
Right.
They decided to take time off from that advisory group and go off on their own. Mm-hmm. Well, that's their right. Any
Sure.
group can advocate
Yep.
you advocate for any cause that they want to, but sometimes I wonder when someone calls themselves an environmental activist, how do they become an environmental activist? I think we're all concerned about
Right.
the environment. So I'm an environmental activist.
Right.
I advocate for the environment, and but it's someone who generally feels they have to go out and make complaints about something, mm-hmm. and instead of trying to fix the problem, they carry it on to a degree that's somewhat not healthy, I think, in a community this size. I think they should work together.
So you know, or so that our viewers know, they never were endorsed by the town board or given any authority by the town board.
No, sir.
Okay, let's clarify that. Well, let's talk about the big meeting coming up Wednesday night. Certainly it's 5 o'clock. It's the public hearing. It's at the community center. Give us a little ground rules. Starts at 5, and you're going to let it go, and as long as everybody wants to speak, and you're going to limit the number of minutes they can speak, or how's that going to work?
No, New York State Association of Towns, from what I've read,
okay,
at a public hearing,
okay,
you don't limit the number of minutes people can speak.
Wow.
You allow as many people to speak as they want to. They have to sign in. They come that day, they sign in, they don't sign up ahead of time, and you just allow the meeting to go on as long as it does. There's one rule I am going to make, which I'm allowed to make some rules in those parameters. Sure. I'm not going to allow any signs into the meeting because I think it might be obstruct what's being said, obstruct people who are talking. With that large number of people, I think you should not bring signs into the room, and you should give the people the opportunity to speak unobstructed.
So they have to sign up the day of the meeting?
You come in, and there'll be a sign-up sheet, and when you get there, you sign the list, and then I'll be calling your names as they sign in.
And they have unlimited amount of time to speak.
Unlimited amount of time to speak.
So that would mean that the 5 board members, including Nikki Greer, will have sleeping bags, because it could very well go into the morning.
Well, I hope not. But I mean, you have to give people the opportunity to speak. There's areas of free speech.
Sure.
There's areas in free speech where slander, libel, defamation of character,
right?
Which, as town supervisor, if I see that happening, I'll make a rule on,
right? And
then we'll go from there. I don't want to see that happening. I want people to speak their minds without slandering, libeling, or defamation of character to other people, because everyone has a right to their own opinion.
I didn't know that. Okay, so unlimited talk. Wow. I normally don't go to your meetings because I go to bed early, but I sure won't make that one.
And that's one of the reasons I started it at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
Because it's going to be a longer. I believe it might be a longer meeting. And I think some people said my meetings run too long, and so I said, okay, I'll have it at 5 o'clock, and you don't have to be there in the beginning. You can come at any time and sign up, and those sheets, as new people sign up, will be brought to me by one of the members of the police force. That was done last time, but anyone can bring up the sheet as they sign in.
Well, as we wrap up the show, let's talk about the new town hall. You said that it's in good shape, you like it, and it seems to be working for all the departments that are encompassed in that building. Talk about when the public may get an opportunity to get a tour.
Okay, sometime later in April or early May, we plan to have an open house. We had a couple of drawbacks on it. We had a water pipe burst, so that took about 3 months to rectify, and then the weather was tough getting in. And once we opened, we had if you want to call it, the blizzard of 17 again in March. The same as right. I think we had a blizzard in 93.
93.
Yeah. So they always come in March. So. And with the new building opening and those problems of having to move in 1 or 2 days and bringing everything, all the communications, all the IT, you're going to have some issues. We've worked those issues out where I think we're up and running now. We're in a good place, and wait until nicer weather so people don't drag in the mud and snow and water into the building.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon.
One more thing.
Go right ahead.
Gonzaga and Oregon.
All right. That's your call. Gonzaga, Oregon. It'd be a great one, wouldn't it?
West Coast.
But how about South Carolina? What an amazing feat to get to the Final Four.
Yes, it is.
Pretty amazing. So it should be. I'm going to go with the chalk. I'm going to take Carolina. I know that's a chalk. I understand that. Jimmy, who you picking, buddy? Who you picking?
South Carolina.
I love it. Me and Jim I'm going with Carolina, right? Well, listen, Thanks to Greg Lazzaro for joining me. Wow, public hearing starts at 5 o'clock, unlimited speech. Oh, my God. I'll tell you what, I'll have McDonald's bring over some Egg McMuffins for you guys around 3 in the morning.
Okay.
All right, enjoy it with a cup of coffee. Thanks to Greg for joining us. We'll have you back down the road. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Harold.
All right, thank you very much. And next week, we really haven't planned anything yet. We may just come in and talk Masters 2017, one of Jim Senecropi's favorite topics, Augusta National, a week from this coming Thursday. Hard to believe it's almost Masters Week. For Greg Lazzaro, this is the dog, and my producer, director, Jim Senecropi, bidding you farewell. Don't miss that meeting on Wednesday.